Hi everyone. Hey, it's Marlene with Dixie Quilters. Welcome to my channel. Thanks for taking time to spend some looky with what I'm working on. I'm working continually with the Civil War sampler. It's on and on and on. I'm on block 26 and 25, I think it is this week. The 25 is the Ladies Aid album. And I've got it put together, well, laid out right here. We'll sew it together in just a minute. But the Ladies Aid album. And again, this is from the Barbara Brockman book. And it is called Barbara Brockman Civil War Sampler. And it's available from, let's see, who's printing this so that you can get it? It is at most of the big quilt stores, C&T Publishing. So, you can get it on Amazon. You can get it from Missouri Star and Fat Quarter, probably both have it. These are those crazy glasses again that are wonky. Let me see if I have a different pair. Nope. We'll have to work with these today. Okay, so the Ladies Album block. It's actually called the Ladies Aid album block. No, it's not that one. It's this one over here. Okay. It's supposed to shadow a red cross, which is the universal symbol of hospitals, healing, whatever. It's the Sanitary Commission preceded the Red Cross. So the Sanitary Commission doesn't sound very spectacular, but that's what they called the volunteer agency that helped the government manage their wounded troops. So according to this, it's, quotes, it surprises us that 150 years ago, governments took little responsibility for their wounded soldiers. During the Crimean War in the 1850s in Europe, a Florence Nightingale, now we all know who that is, especially all those of us who are nurses, Florence Nightingale established a civilian mission that saved many lives. So inspired by her work, there were women in America and other places that started the first Sanitary Commission, grew as a civilian group authorized by the Union to take responsibility for hospitals and wounded soldiers. Cities all over the northern states soon volunteered to organize their own chapters. So, if you're sending your loved ones off to war, you want to know somebody's going to take care of them if they get injured. So not only did they go and provide care, but they also made a lot of quilts and comforts. We learned last time that they called them comforts. That was what a quilt was called in those days. And another thing that the Ladies Sanitary Commission did was they made clothing, blankets, and supplies, including lint, is what they would put in the wounds to staunch the bleeding. But can't imagine getting that all out and not having infections with that. But anyway, so this was first called the Ladies Aid album block in 1938. And that's according to the Kansas City Star newspaper. So this is the Ladies Aid album block. It has a reminiscent of a Red Cross in it. Now this next one I've actually got put together, and it's called True Blue, number 26 in the book. And you can see that there are some 4 patches. Here's a 4 patch, here's a 4 patch, here and here, and then some corners, giving it sort of a ball shape, like you have a soccer ball right here. Talking about True Blue. Oh, I remember I read about this one. The war was between the two factions. The blue, which was the northern troops, all wore blue uniforms. And then the southerners all had gray uniforms. It distinguished them on the battlefield. Now, what it's talking about here is Yankee versus Rebel. That's what they called them. There's one gentleman named John Thompson who wrote about marching with the Rhode Island Volunteers through Virginia, where the Yankees found many houses where meals could be had. So the Yankees were marching through the southern state of Virginia, and the people were selling them food. At some of these places, the families were truly sympathizers of the North with the concept of the blue side, whereas some of them that were considered blue without the true. So those would be Southerners that did not want to be branded as Southerners, because then they would not be able to buy and sell. They could not, what else could they not do? They couldn't receive rations, and many of them were jailed. So in order to get past that, to protect the integrity of their family, they would sign oaths that said that they were now sympathizing with the North. And so they called those the blue without the true. I got that right. Blue without the true, not true without the blue. Okay. Now this is called the True Blue, and it has to do with taking the oath of allegiance, swearing allegiance to the North, to the Union and the Constitution. So many people swallowed their pride, is what it says, swallowed their pride and signed up so that they could protect the integrity of their family. So, True Blue. Now the next one, we have now finished up all 26 of the standardized blocks. Now going forward, it says that we're going to be doing pieced blocks in miscellaneous designs. And you can see this is the empty sugar bowl one. I recognize that from some quilt we've done in the past. And let's see. The Soldier's Aid 9-patch, that seems to be a sort of a, oh, I know, this whole story on the Soldier's 9-patch has to do with how they would not make a full top and then quilt it to a full bottom. They would make an 8-inch block, completely bind it, and then whip stitch it to another one and just make a quilt out of so many blocks that had already been quilted. So that's what we call that now is a quilt as you go type of a blanket. But this whip stitching thing, that would be a lot of work in my book. But that would be one way to collect a bunch of patches from a variety of different people, and as long as they were all 8-inch patches, you could whip stitch them together and have a blanket. So then the next one after that is the log cabin, and they talk about the connection with Uncle Tom's Cabin and the ethics and the what the families learned when they were reading Harriet Beecher Stowe's book. It gave so many more people in the North a concept of what was really happening with slavery in the South. Then there's one for the hospital, H for hospital. Empty spools is in relevance to how during the war there was no fabrics. We talked about that with an earlier block. There's no fabrics, there's no thread, no needles. And so if you found any kind of anything you could work with, you repurposed and kept going and went from there. The Old Maid Puzzle, it talks about Jefferson Davis's daughter. You can imagine of all the young women during that time, there weren't enough young men to go around after the war killed off thousands and thousands of young men. So there were a lot of old maids during that time. And then we get into some real interesting shaped ones that are that include Y seams. Let me get to those. One of them was the Carolina Lily. I remember doing that for my Christmas figs block. So there's quite a few more here to go. Here's even a curved one. This is the Indiana Puzzle, but it's also in reference to the copper penny. Now the copper penny, it has to do with, it wasn't just the North and the South. There were other factions that were involved as well. And one of the factions was Democrats from the South that were not in favor of all the things that the South was doing, including they didn't want to secede from the Union. And so they were called Copperheads because they weren't really one thing and they weren't really the other. And for some reason, they got called Copperheads, like a snake. Well, maybe that's it, because they were a snake. But then the Copperheads people, they decided to use copper pennies with the Lady Liberty on the backside of the copper penny to indicate that they wanted freedom and liberty for their thoughts as well. So this is why we have these copper colors. So when I get around to doing that, I've got quite a few copper colors in my stash. We're going to use that. And then Grapes of Wrath. This is from Julia Ward Howe. She's the one who wrote the Battle Hymn of the Republic. And she, in one of the phrases, now I don't remember singing it with this phrase in it, but maybe I sang it and didn't notice it. But it talks about he is trampling out the vintage where the grapes of wrath are stored. Well, that's a reference to in the book of Revelation, fruit pressed into the great winepress of the wrath of God. So here's a very religious woman who's creating a song that talks about the experiences during the war and what's happening with all these young people. And this is Grapes of Wrath. And it looks like a basket, like all the different basket quilts and blocks that we've made over the years. I think, what was it? Just Fat Quarter Shop did some kind of a basket quilt here recently in the last year or so. So they had every kind of a basket. Now this one looks interesting, the Union Shield. So I'm going to have to find some red and white striped fabric to do a good job on that one. I don't know that I have any, but I'll start looking. And then piecing challenges. I guess once we get up here to block 44 is when we do the Y seams. So the West Virginia block, the Carolina Lily, the Confederate Rose, and this one that requires templates, Red, White, and Blue Star. It's sort of like a stack and whack in this rendition down here. Anyway, so we've got quite a few more to go. But the two that I'm working on today, I have finished True Blue, Bingo Bango. I would have got a lot more done yesterday, but it was so blasted hot up here. I'm upstairs and I don't have air. Okay, Ladies Aid album. Let's put that one together right now. And thank you for watching. Please subscribe, put on your notification bells, leave me a comment. Apparently all these comments make a difference in the how YouTube recognizes your posts and your videos and whether they bring them up in those random feeds or not. So please be sure to leave me comments every time. You don't have to say they look nice, just say hey. Hey. Okay, so let me get going on this and we will make the Ladies Aid album block. Let's bring that down here where I can get at it a little better. When I laid this all out last night, I came up with one short of this size. So I had to redo them in another fabric. I don't know what happened to it. I've been looking all over for it. Nope, not laying around. Okay, so we'll just start making these little flying geeses. And here's Hannah, she's right behind me. Anna, can you come out and say hi? Come here, Anna. Come here, baby. Come here. Oh, can you get through there okay? Come onto the table. Come onto the table. Yeah, come here, girl. Can you come stick your head out? Yeah, look at you. Can you see her? She's just wonderful little old dog. Yeah, yeah. Okay, Fluffer. Down there. Thank you for saying hi. Yes. Now, if I wanted to do a live, what time of day and what day of the week would be best for any of you to see? I mean, are we all workers? Are we off? There's so many of them that do it on Sundays and Saturdays. I was thinking maybe a Tuesday or a Friday. What do you think? Would either of those work for any of you? That we could do a so-long kind of a thing? Or so many of the channels will actually put together a kit and send it out to their people who are interested, and then they can work on it together. I don't know if I'm up to that, but we can certainly maybe pick a project and find one on sale somewhere. Here we go. I think this little roller works better than a fingernail, but I don't know. We're gonna have to size those anyway, so I may as well go press them. You know, that's one of the things I have learned is that if you're gonna put flying geese together, you better size them before you try to fit them into the blocks, because they, for me, are never perfect. Unless I use paper piecing. Then they actually come out square or rectangle, or they're good. So I'm going to take a quick break and iron them and then come. Let's see, is this the size we want? The half square triangle should be it doesn't say. Well, what do they appear to be? They appear to be 2 by 3.5. So we could just take off their ears. That would be a good start. Let's see now, that's how that goes, right? Like that. No? Now B is supposed to be 1.5 by 3.5. And those are just 3. No wonder they didn't look right. So we need to have these be bigger by a 1/2 inch. Then these are supposed to be 3.5. Now there you go, 3.5. That one's closer to 4. Well, first of all, we'll probably need to recut these guys. I think if oh, you didn't see that. I sprung them all on the floor. So I need 1.5 by 3.5. Two by 3.5. That makes sense because this is 3.5. we go. You see that okay? Hannah, just be quiet, huh? You too hot? We'll give you a shower. That'll cool you down. Just a minute. Just a minute. There we go. Again, here's what we're going for. The Ladies Aid album block. I like how they fussy cutted the flower. So that's what I did too. I did a flower. Okay, so the way I'm going to put this block together is I'm going to put these flying geese to their background piece. Okay, we'll just quickly put this together. And then I'm headed over to Hobby Lobby to get some dollhouse wallpaper and wainscoting. Are any of you interested in seeing what I'm doing with a dollhouse for my granddaughter for her 5th birthday? I'm wallpapering and painting and we need to do some repair on trim pieces around windows and door jambs. My daughter found an antique, or say vintage, dollhouse. 3 stories, lots of banisters and gingerbread. And a lot of that gingerbread's coming off, but when she bought it, she was given all the parts and pieces, so that's pretty important. We better go through this and just line them up. There. I'm so visual, I have to see that laid down before I can proceed. Hi, Hannah. Okay, so let's put these 3 rows together and we're good. I do like to do the seams with pins. I'm pretty happy with it. Hannah, you sound like a freight train. Okay, we're done. Ladies Aid album block. According to this, that's the Florence Nightingale. Saved a lot of people in the Crimean War of the 1850s, and so when the Civil War started, then American women started the Sanitary Commission, which eventually grew into the Red Cross. Okay, here's our finished one. Looks nice, huh? I went ahead and pressed open the two big seams, but pressed down all the other ones. And I like how the corners came together pretty doggone nicely. I don't know if I could get any better than that. Anyway, so that's Ladies Aid and... Wait a minute. I did that one yesterday. Ladies Aid and True Blue. There we go, True Blue. So leave me a comment. Are you working on the Stitch in Heaven Civil War sampler? I think that starts coming up, well, not right away. I think it starts in a few months. But they seem to run that Civil War project that looks just like this every couple of years. Because I think it was a year ago or so that they were doing a Civil War sampler with Barbara Brockman. And then I was interested in it, and so I got the book, and now I'm doing it this year. And now I didn't do it last year, I don't think. And now they're starting it again. So Stitch in Heaven is going to be providing a kit to this whole thing. So you don't have to come up with your own fabrics. But man, for me, that was a lot of fun. Was getting a couple of the monthly installments from Keepsake Quilting, a couple of monthly installments from Fat Quarter Shop on reproduction fabrics. And boy, I've really loved them because there are a lot of well, they look like Kansas Trouble fabrics, you know. Those are that color genre of the, well, you know what I mean. The tans, the blues, the odd, not the darker reds, not the bright things, but more vintage looking colors. Anyway, so I'm very happy with it. And our next one that we're going to work on is going to be piece blocks in miscellaneous designs, starting with the sugar bowl. And this is number 27 on page 57. Okay, so take care. Have a good day. Bye now.